everyone, hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Shelly, and what are we doing today? Well, today I'm going to be doing a tag video, and I'm going to be doing the Traveling with Books tag, which was originally created by Gina Stanier at Gina Stanier Books, and she kindly tagged me in her original tag video. And as the title would indicate, all of these questions have to do with books and traveling, and whether we take books while we're traveling, and our bookish lives while we are outside of our home, our homes, or for me, outside of my Hobbit home, because this is where all of my creature comforts live, and I do love being home. I'm a bit of a homebody, but I do travel. I do, and I have. So let's just get right into it. Question number one is, do you read when you travel? And the answer is kind of. So when I'm actually in the act of moving from one destination to another, that period of time, I almost always read, or I'm listening to an audiobook, or I'm consuming something during that time. So whether I'm in the car, I'm on an airplane, I'm walking, as in like the actual act of moving from one place to another, I do read or listen to books. And but when I'm at my destination, sometimes I don't read because I realize that I am very distracted by my setting. I am visiting with my friends, I'm visiting with my family. I want to go out, and I don't want to stay in this space and sit down and read, or stay in the hotel, or stay in that, in the room and read. I want to go out and explore. So it just depends. Some vacations I'll read more than others. But it just depends on like the agenda, and typically if it has anything to do with other people, like if the traveling has to do with other people, then I won't read as much. I prioritize visiting over reading. But if I'm traveling by myself or with my husband, then typically I'll get more reading in. I hope that made sense. Questions number 2 and 3 I'm going to combine, and it's, do you travel with paper books? Do you travel with an e-reader? So I travel with both. I have to bring a paper book with me. I don't know, it's in my DNA. I have to. I feel like my luggage is incomplete without a physical book with me. And then because I get worried, I'm like, what if I read my physical book and then there's nothing to read? Then what will I do? The sky is falling. So then I always bring my Kindle, because I have books on there that I can reread. I mean, the Kindle is amazing because you can have a whole library of books in this little compact device, and you don't have to like limit your choices or anything. And so sort of an anxiety-inducing decision, or maybe a better way of putting it would be like, because I want options, because I don't want to be left in the lurch without a book, because that is the stuff of nightmares. I always bring my Kindle with me when I travel, because it's just like a thing that I do. So I have a paper book and a Kindle. How many books do you pack when you travel? So this really depends on the length of the vacation or the trip. So I always bring at least one physical book, because I love the comfort of having a book near me at all times. And it's always like, oh, if I'm ever bored, though that rarely ever happens these days, but if I'm ever bored, then I will have a book that I can pick up. So it's like a comfort thing. But if I'm going for an extended period of time, for example, in July, I traveled to California to visit relatives, and we were gone for 3 weeks. And so I packed, I think, 3 books. But a lot of it had to do with the length of time that I was there, and I wanted options. I also brought my Kindle. So it definitely depends, and I always, at a minimum, bring one. Bring one book. Emergency book for that nightstand. I sort of bled into the next answer, but question number 5 is, does where you go or how long you are traveling for impact the amount/types of books you take? Okay, so as I mentioned before, if it's a longer trip, I bring more books. I am very much influenced, at least in the last year, by BookTube events. So I traveled in July of this year and I traveled July of last year, and I was on BookTube for both of those Julys. And here on BookTube, that is Jane Austen July, where we celebrate Jane Austen books. And so when I traveled, I brought Jane Austen books with me. So BookTube definitely influences my book taking, like what I'm taking. If I'm doing a buddy read, if I have a book on my mind because, you know, an event is going on or something is happening on BookTube, then I will bring that book to match the, you know, what's happening on BookTube. So y'all really influence my reading. But as far as like pre-BookTube or like, do I bring summer books for summer vacations? No, not really. I will bring what I am currently reading. So if we were to go on a vacation next week or tomorrow, let's say, I am currently reading The Story of a New Name by Elena Ferrante, and I would bring this because I'm, you know, a fourth of the way through. I'm really enjoying it, and I would want to dive into what I'm currently reading on my trip to finish up what I'm reading. Often though, I'll bring a poetry book because I know that sometimes I get caught up not reading, and yet I still want to enjoy language. I want to enjoy words on the page, and I want to still get in there with this art form and to connect with humanity in this way. So a lot of times I'll bring a small, slim poetry book like Mary Oliver's American Primitive. Or on my California vacation, I read Gold by Rumi, which was translated by Helena Lisa Gaffori. Yeah, and I really loved reading Rumi in California, and now when I look at Rumi, I associate it with my California trip. So sometimes I do that intentionally, and sometimes it's just happenstance, like what I'm currently reading. The last question, which is probably my favorite, and it is, do you buy books when traveling or visit bookshops/libraries? Okay, so here is the deal. My hometown bookshop is connected with the public library, and because of that connection, they are able to sell books at library book sale prices. So that means that most books in this bookstore is $1, $2, $5 is an expensive book at this particular bookshop that is a stone's throw away from my parents' house in California. And so here's the deal. When I go back to California, I know that books are accessible at a great price. Actually, I grew up at this bookshop, so it was like a bucket of cold water on my head when I ventured out into the real world and actually realized how much books cost. Like, I was like, $25 for a book? Well, okay. Those are not the prices that I grew up with. And this bookstore is pretty much unchanged from my childhood. So they have books of all kinds. They carry a ton of classics. There is just a lot of options there. And so in my mind, I know that when I travel to California, I have this bookshop that will be waiting for me to explore their selection. And then I can really choose almost as much as I want because everything is so affordable. So this past summer, I bought a bunch of books. I actually did an unboxing when I mailed that box of books back to myself in South Carolina. I will leave that video linked somewhere. And yeah, so that's kind of like my California book buying adventure. I let loose. It's just, there are no rules, there are no parameters. I can buy as many books as I want as long as I don't go over my budget. So I guess there is a rule and a parameter. Don't spend outside of what you can afford. But other than that, I mean, I just let myself buy what I want. Otherwise, when I am on vacation, like if I were to take a weekend trip away, I love visiting secondhand shops, bookshops, any place where you can get your hands on books. So even when I was visiting my sister up in North Carolina, she always knew Shelly is going to take an hour to go visit our local bookshop. It's just the thing that I love. I just love it. I love that you can find gems that you would have never thought of or would have found anywhere else. And I love the hunting, the sort of treasure hunt of a secondhand bookshop where you're just looking through the shelves and enjoying the search. Yeah, so that's what I love to do on vacation, and it's my thing. As far as libraries, I know people, and I have known people that will go on vacation and visit like beautiful and ornate libraries, but for whatever reason, that's not really me. If I see a really cool library, sometimes I'll take note and I'll want to look inside for a minute, but it's definitely not a priority. My priorities are often bookshops, secondhand shops. Yeah. And it brings me just so much joy. I just love being around sort of bookish environments. So yeah, and then the last question is tag some travelers. And I am going to tag 3 travelers. Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia. Actually, I'm gonna tag 4 travelers. So Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia, Gloria Z. Thompson, who is on vacation right now. Go follow her Instagram. She's posting a bunch and it's amazing. I'm gonna tag Novel Idea, Deea. I know you've been moving and traveling, so I would love to hear your answers for this. And then I'm gonna tag Marilyn Maya Mendoza, the baby boomer booktuber, because I know she has a travel bug. She loves to travel, and so I wonder, Marilyn, do you bring books when you travel? Do you read books when you travel? Anyways, or if you all are just compelled to do this tag, then you are tagged by me, and please do so. If you don't have a channel, but you would love to answer the questions down below, or if one question, you were like, I have a great answer for that, I would love to hear from you down below. That would be wonderful. And yeah, that's it for me. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye, guys.